What's up everyone, I'm Twisted. Today we are going to go over all the lore from the latest Legends of Runeterra expansion. As you may know, unfortunately, Fiddle's own cards are the only ones that have flavor text, and on top of that, this new expansion did not get a single new voice line, though Fiddlestick's voice actor has confirmed that he did record new lines for the Scarecrow, and the team confirmed that they will address this soon, so it's possible that voice lines, and maybe flavor, will come to the game at a later date. But for now, let's focus on what we have. In case you didn't know, this expansion is a direct follow-up to the previous one. I highly recommend you watch these two videos if you're not caught up yet in all the lore from that expansion. The TLDR is that Lily becomes aware that something is corrupting dreams and trapping dreamers in their nightmares, and we see this with Vex and Lux as both of their cards take place inside their dreams. Since the new cards don't have flavor, we are lacking a lot of context, so first let's start with the ones that we actually know something about. The first one is Nightmare, the new trap. Here we can see a dream sprite being ensnared by some kind of branch or root. As we saw in the previous expansion, these sprites are beings that enter dreams to guide dreamers. Next, we have a new follower, the False Friend. As I said, Vex's cards take place in her nightmare. It just so happens that her nightmare is her birthday party. Ally is a Yordle that offered Vex a present, that being this plushie right here, and inside Vex's nightmare, the plushie becomes monstrous, as we see in the card Grotesque Gift. I assume that the artwork of the False Friend card happens in between these two. This is likely the moment in Vex's nightmare when the plushie transformed into, well, this. And here we do see Vex scared of it, but as we see in the Grotesque Gift, that probably won't last long. And the final card we know something about is the Baleful Seeker. Lux's cards depict her in her nightmare, a twisted version of Demacia. There we saw the Aberrant Mage Seeker, a suspicious Mage Seeker that was trying to lure Lux to the darkness. And here in this card we can see why. Notice how the clothes are the same, even having the same emblem on its chest, and how the face is composed of the mask and headpiece the Mage Seeker was wearing. This explains why the Mage Seeker's proportions were so weird. They were hiding all of this underneath. In the artwork we can also see a dream sprite. Now let's go over the other cards. Starting with the Lurking Nightmare, all we can see here is a bear trap, which is funny because Fiddlesticks in LOR is a trap champion, and Fiddle's makeshift mouth is some kind of bear trap as well, I'm pretty sure. The bear trap has this black substance in the middle, as well as a bunch of eyes, both elements we see on Fiddlesticks as well. In the background we can see some ruins as well as some birds, likely crows, and the trap here is waiting for these Shorimans to step on it. And what happens when they do? We get the Forgotten Terror. We can see that the bear trap on its face was the one on the ground in the previous card, meaning now this creature is bursting out of the sand. Their design, excluding the face, reminds me of the various Bakai present in LOR. I'll discuss what this creature could be in the second, but first let's look at the other creatures. Here we have the Shallows Siren. We can see that this is a creature luring a child using the appearance of a woman above the surface, while below its body is that of a huge serpent. Notice how it continues on the right. This creature also has multiple eyes on its body, and this card takes place in Bilgewater. The last creature is the Dread Harvester. This is some kind of bird made out of blades and cloth, as well as the black substance we see in the other creatures, as well as Fiddlesticks himself. And of course it has lots of eyes. This one seems to be feeding on, well, dread, I suppose, from the bodies of Noxian soldiers, likely in the aftermath of a battle. Now, what could these creatures be? The most common theory I've seen is that these are all Fiddlesticks. That would make sense, since the current body of Fiddlesticks is just made out of junk that the demon found in Demacia. So all of these monsters could just be made out of junk that Fiddle found in each of these regions. However, after giving it some thought, I think that that might not be the case. Going back to the False Friend and the Baleful Seeker, we know that these two exist only inside the dreams of Lux and Vex, and are personifications of their fears. The discrimination and persecution of mages in Demacia for Lux, and for Vex it's not deserving to be loved, I think. Either way, it would make sense if the other creatures also only existed inside dreams. We know Fiddlesticks is corrupting multiple dreams, not just those of Lux and Vex, so it's possible that these are nightmares of a Shuriman, a Noxian, and maybe even that kid over there. A Shuriman's fears being related not only to the past, but also to creatures bursting out of the ground makes sense, Noxians losing a battle or war also makes sense, and a child from Bilgewater fearing the monsters lurking below is probably very common. So technically, yes, this could all be considered Fiddle, just the Fiddle inside their dreams and not the actual Fiddle, if that makes sense. Again, we don't have flavors this time around, so it's even more up to interpretation than usual, and this was my interpretation, but let me know down below if you agree. Now, let's quickly go over the new spells. First, we have Rip, which is one of Fiddlestick's abilities in League. In the artwork, we can see the Eternal Dancers being split in half. Perhaps this is their nightmare. Wait, do these spirits even sleep and have dreams? Anyway, this artwork is also used for one of the new powers, Bountiful Harvest. This is named after one of Fiddle's abilities in League. We also got the Crowstorm, Fiddle's ultimate in League. There's not much to say here. Like we see in League, Fiddle's cage opens up, revealing the demon. I assume this symbol right here is the eye of the demon, and the same we see in the icon of Fiddlestick's ability in League. This artwork is also used for the relic Harmless Scarecrow, which is named after Fiddle's passive in League. And now, let's check out the demon himself. For so long, they thought me mad, insisting Fiddlesticks was nothing more than a myth, a tale to scare children into behaving. But what I encountered in the woods that day was no myth. It was the living embodiment of fear itself. I now suspect that speaking of it, or simply thinking of it, is enough to draw it near. The voices began in the woods, beckoning, but now they are outside my window, and I dare not look. All I want is to wake from this nightmare. A couple things to mention here. First is that, as you might know, Fiddle is indeed a myth in Demacia, but also in all regions of the world of Runeterra. Demacia is just more relevant to Fiddlesticks right now, because that's where he currently is. Second, this is an in-universe report being made by a character, so we should take it with a grain of salt. With this being said, if he is right and thinking of Fiddle is enough to draw it near, then that's really spooky. And third, the character speaking is Virgil Kest, a Demacian demonologist. This is a brand new character, and I hope we eventually see them as a follower in-game. Funny enough, this is not the first demonologist we've heard of. In the game Convergence, there's a note about a Piltovan professor who wants to pursue demonology. Going over Fiddlestick's artworks, I'm not sure where they take place. I would assume Demacia, but these don't really look like it. This seems to be the same place seen in the level up animation. Notice the windows and green wires or vines. I'm going to assume that this takes place somewhere in the hinterlands of Demacia, and that's why the buildings don't look like the ones from the main city, but I'm not 100% confident. In his level 2, we can see him using either his ultimate or his drain ability, or most likely both. And now let's explore the new Path of Champions adventure themed around Fiddlesticks. This adventure takes place in the Shadow Isles, likely for gameplay reasons and because Spooky Champion goes to Spooky Region. In this adventure, there are a total of 11 different encounters, and they're all themed around fears, common nightmares and other spooky stuff, with names, powers, playstyles and even cosmetics to match. All of these encounters have the power Jump Scare, which causes them to instantly summon followers that cost 2 or less when they are drawn. The term Jump Scare obviously fits Fiddlesticks very well. The Nightmare variant of this adventure has a stronger version of this power and an additional one, Deadly. This grants enemy units bonus stats when they are summoned, and the enemy spells and skills deal double damage. The first encounter is the Sleepless Slumber. This is supposed to represent a player falling asleep, embracing the darkness. This AI has a lot of darkness related cards, as well as a power that causes it to play a darkness when it attacks. Shadow in the Brush represents that feeling of being followed or that something is watching you. It mostly just likes to play brush and transform units and use Ancient Malediction. According to its name, flavor and quote, Vicious Mockery seems to be about the insecurity of how others perceive you. This likely ties to Vex's fears that I mentioned before, hence why we see the grotesque gift here. Gameplay wise, the opponent just likes to inflict gloom a lot. The Dread represents, well, dread, as well as the inability to act when faced with fear, hence why this AI likes to reduce the power of the player's followers and has a power that causes it to kill the player's units with 0 power at round end. Thalassophobia is the fear of deep water. This AI has a lot of sea creatures in its deck and a lot of ways to give vulnerable to the player's followers. Then we have Elise, which obviously represents the fear of spiders. Her power shuffles spiderlings onto the player's deck, and when these are drawn, Elise steals them and summons them, almost as if they are crawling up your body, ready to surprise you at any moment. As expected, this opponent wants to fill its board with spider followers. The power of the Pale Death is Thanatophobia, the fear of death or dying. The power causes it to deal damage to the enemy nexus every time it slays a unit with a spell or skill. The Aetherfiend fits well here, since it's a death spirit, but also its play effect is a skill that kills a unit. Survive the Night is probably my favorite encounter in terms of flavor. The name is referencing its power. This power prevents the player from damaging the enemy nexus, but on round end, that nexus takes 10 damage and the enemy rallies. This means the player has to survive at least 4 rounds to beat it. I say at least because the AI has a couple of lifesteal units to heal its nexus. This is basically that moment in horror movies where the protagonists have to survive a horde of creatures. The Soul Gorger is likely the creature referenced in the flavor of the encounter, and it's also here likely because it's a lifesteal unit. Both the Aetherfiend and Soul Gorger appeared in the trailer for this expansion, likely because of these encounters. Sickening Plunge refers to the fear fear of heights, but also a common nightmare people have, that being falling off a great height. Its power causes the player's Nexus to take 77 damage at the end of round 7, obviously representing them finally hitting the ground after falling off a cliff. The AI likes to fill its side with birds, likely to stall the game. I assume Creeping Hatred is themed after Creepy Forests, the fear of being in a forest at night and barely seeing anything. With the help of its power, it tries to fill its side of the board with snap vines. And finally, we have Fiddlesticks. Its power is Recurring Nightmares, which plants 8 nightmares in the player's deck at game start, and at round end terrifies 1 for each card the player added to their hand that round, basically punishing them for drawing or creating cards. Thanks to this power as well as Jumpscare, Fiddlesticks can easily get a board full of units. And that's it for Fiddlesticks in Legends of Runeterra, at least for now. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Make sure to let me know down below what you think of Fiddle. Also, consider subscribing if you haven't already, as I plan to make more videos like this for the upcoming champions, Warwick and Ambessa Medarda. With this being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.